Okay, once again, you're joining a lecture at Stanford University, and the lecture was given, I believe, in the year 2010, over 10 years ago, and I'm going to just basically show you that on the usage of words alone, you can determine and conclude that virology is nonsensology. Viruses do not exist at all, period. They're complete and total hoaxes. So let's listen in and I'll have some comments.
So let's go back to 1918. So why should we worry about what happened in 1918 anyway? Well, first of all, there's something very funny about that virus, and if we knew more about why that was such a virulent virus, it would tell us a great deal of what to look for in the future and perhaps ways to prevent.
Okay, I call this stacking. You take one hoax, and that's a box, and then you take another box and stack it on top of that box. So the various deadly things that have happened with viruses, they are just boxes stacked on top of one another. One hoax stacked upon another. So the one who's giving this lecture is preparing anyone listening for the possibility of another hoax forthcoming.
Something like that from occurring again. So we didn't understand any of the virulence determinants. And indeed, another strain like the 1918 strain could certainly evolve.
See, there it is. And notice the wording, may evolve. So we're going all the way back to Darwin, who told us life and its origin is in evolution. So evolution, as taught by Darwin, is tied into all this nonsense because viruses evolve. And they also use the word mutate. And I have a video on my channel, War Backwards is Raw, where I talk about how viruses mutate. Mutate. So they give these viruses all kinds of magical properties.
It happened once. It could certainly happen again. And as I said, if we knew more about the 1918 strain in particular, we might even have some novel therapeutic targets and some other ways to prevent infection in the first place in terms of our immunization programs. So, how are we going to resurrect a dead virus?
Notice the we language. We. She just included you. All right? She just included me. Or should I say, he just included me. He just included you. How are we going to resurrect something that is dead? Okay? Well, if you understand the Bible and you understand Almighty God, it's only Almighty God that does resurrections, that raises the dead. Okay? So you're in the world of magic, you're in the world of the supernatural, you're in the world of nonsense, okay? So she's going to tell you that they just happen to have lung tissue from a soldier that died of this. And by the way, that's another important thing to realize. A lot of times these hoaxes are interwoven with the military, okay? So the usages of materials and scientific facilities and all of that is sort of blended with the outside world of doctors and medicines and all that. So we just happen to have on file a piece of tissue from somebody who died of this. Right.
Well, Jeffrey Taubenberger was a young pathologist who was at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, a now defunct organization, thanks to our wise Congress.
Yeah, very wise. Get all these hoaxers in that you can. Let everything be a hoax, complete and total.
Which was a repository of a massive amount of pathological material from the armed forces and going back decades, including boxes and boxes and boxes of formalin-fixed tissue material taken from soldiers who died in the 1918 influenza pandemic. Now we carry forward to the modern era of sequencing and
more made up stuff. Okay, it's just all made up. You can even see the way this presenter presents things. Like, it's pretty hard for the one who's the hoaxer to keep all the hoaxes correct. Sequencing, right. And on the nonsense goes with nonsense terminology just to confuse the daylights out of you. So you say, wow, I don't understand sequencing.
DNA technology and PCR amplification. And Taubenberger started in the mid-90s to see if he couldn't extract some pieces of the influenza virus RNA from fixed tissue materials and use PCR amplification.
It's just all made up lies, nonsense language to give them an inside language so that you feel on the outside. Okay, you'll say, what in the world is that? I don't know. I'll just trust this lecturer.
To then get the sequence of the virus and essentially figure out what virus it was.
Yeah, just figure it right out from all your nonsense. In other words, you just make stuff up as you go along. It's just like when you were a child and you actually used imagination and just made things up. You told people about the game you were playing, and of course you make the rules. You make it up as you go along. That's why you're the winner.
Put all those pieces together and look at the huge database of information that's now known about influenza viruses and figure out what virus it really was. Well, so he started this and he wrote an initial paper that appeared in a very prestigious journal.
Okay, a lot of these journals are just propaganda, and they are edited by individuals who will not let good science come through. Okay, so it looks like it's credible, but once again the ethos or the credibility of it is nil. But it has a fancy name on it and has been given a respectable title in the eyes of the world. But nevertheless, they're just propaganda pieces. That's all.
Identifying the beginnings of the gene that encodes for the hemagglutinin of the 1918 virus. So he was actually able to get little bits and pieces of nucleic acid material out of some of these paraffin blocks that had taken.
See, the individual's having a hard time putting all these terms together because they're all nonsense. And this individual is just an actor, okay? That's why you notice how there's a stumbling between the words. It's not a nice flow. When you're certain about what you're talking about, your words flow. She kind of stuttered between the terminologies because she's trying to keep it right. He is trying to keep it right in his mind with these nonsense terms and how they're connected. But it's enough to bedazzle you. It's enough to bedazzle me. To say, I give up. I surrender to your ethos. I surrender to your so-called credibility. right? But basically, you're just bedazzled with nonsense.
Him and his colleague Ann Rich, years to get this far. And now we come to Dr. Holton. This is how I got interested in flu. Johann Holton, who's shown in both pictures, in 1951 was a visiting medical student from...
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. This is about a dude that goes up and digs up some dead bodies. Oh, he's so excited. He digs up a dead body that's just preserved absolutely perfectly. Right. So you've got a lot of nonsense in front of you. All right? Don't believe any of these phony, nonsense individuals who present to you a bunch of gobbledygook about things that do not exist at all. You need not fear anything except the vaccines. Stay away from all vaccines, because that's where the problems are. They're not in the air. They're not on your neighbor. They're not on your food. They're not at the post office on the counter. They're not at the store where you go. Okay? They're not there. Thank you for watching. End of video.